What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Happy Valentine's Day. Today just wanted to spend a little bit of time kind of discussing my opinion and my experience with the Vitpilen 401 and try to help those that are maybe thinking about buying one for their first bike. A lot of the comments that I've been getting is people saying that it is their first bike or they're thinking about getting it. They're trying to decide between a Ninja 400 or R3, MT-03, etc. And they're not quite sure what to do, so I thought maybe this video would be helpful. First of all, just let me say, I'm gonna use the term beginner bike kind of loosely throughout this video. In my opinion, that means something different really for everybody. I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do or anything like that. I think you should just buy whatever you want. Only you know what's best for you. Of course, you should use your other sources, maybe other resources. Talk to the people at the dealership, use YouTube, Reddit, other friends that ride as a resource, but really only you can make that decision, and you should just get whatever you think is appropriate. So this comes from somebody who I am a new rider. I'm new to this whole riding thing. I haven't been riding dirt bikes for 10 years or anything like that. I'm brand new. I've only been riding for a couple years. The Vitpilen 401, not my first bike. I started on a bike much larger, way more power, a little bit heavier, but mostly, way more performance than the Vitpilen. I mean, like 4 times the power type of deal, right? So that being said, I started on a bike that was maybe too big or whatever you want to say for most people, but I didn't feel that way for myself. And I think what I'm trying to say here is if you think that you're going to be irresponsible on a Gixxer 1000, Gixxer 600, you don't think that you're ready for it, you're probably not going to be responsible on a smaller bike either. These small bikes, R3s, Ninja 400s, etc., they all go well over 100 miles an hour. And even if they didn't, let's say they only went freeway speed, 70 miles an hour, topped out, pinned. Okay, well, if you are a person that thinks that you can't control yourself, well, if you're going 70 miles an hour in a residential area where you're supposed to be going 25, how's that going to turn out for you? As opposed to an individual who is responsible, who can control themselves, that, yeah, maybe they have a 200 horsepower S1000 RR, but even though that bike has the same power as same or more power than most cars do, you can still ride it at 25 miles per hour if you want to, if you can control it. So anyways, throughout this video, my evaluation, my opinion on this bike, it will be based on the term beginner bike as most people in this industry understand it. So light, a little bit lower powered, nimble, that type of thing. I will be evaluating the bike kind of under that scope. So anyways, here we go. I think that the number one reason why a person will want to start on one of these bikes is because they look cool, right? These bikes look cool. Out of all the small bikes, if you have this next to an R3 or the small CBRs or something like that, even a Duke 390, there's no comparison, right? Those little small sport bikes, let's be honest, I hope I don't offend anybody, but they look kind of goofy, right? They have full fairings, so they kind of maybe look like an R6 at first glance, but the tires are really small. The headlights look a little goofy, kind of childish looking. They just can't compare to these. And despite my other bike, it's a bright red Ducati, right? I still get way more comments, way more positive comments when riding the Vitpilen. I would say a good 30% of the time when I stop somewhere on the Vitpilen, somebody will make a comment. Somebody will ask, what is that? Somebody will ask, is that an old bike that you made look new? Like, did you restore it? Is that an Italian bike? Is that a German bike? They don't know what it is. One time I was even getting gas, and this Volvo enthusiast, a super nice gentleman, he had a really nice yellow V70R manual. He stopped and he made the comment that it looks like it's from like 2030, 2040. It looks like it's from the future, but it also looks like it's old somehow. Which is a really cool comment, because that's kind of how I feel about it. It looks futuristic, but it has spoked wheels. It kind of has like it's got the one big light in the front like an old school bike would, but it's LED at the same time. So I think that really captured the aesthetic of this bike. And let's be honest, when you first start riding, you want to look cool, right? You're probably going to be younger if it's your first bike, and you want to look cool, you want to be cool. And I think that by having that aesthetic, it makes you want to ride more. It makes you want to stick with it, because riding, yeah, it can be frustrating. It can be expensive, right? It takes a lot more planning to ride as opposed to driving a car, right? It's especially depending on where you live. But by having something cool that you like to look at, you like to maybe detail, you like to work on, right? You like getting the positive comments. It's not even about just getting attention. It's just that you like the positive comments. You like that conversation starter. You like that it's a bike that's approachable. Those are all things that I would think would make you want to keep riding. And I think a lot of the features and factory upgrades on this bike, they really add to the aesthetic. So for example, I'll go back to, it's kind of got the old school, just one big headlight in the front, but it's all LED. It's got like the LED, I don't want to say angel eye, but kind of like an angel eye. Everything, the high beam is LED as well. It's just kind of it's a cool look, right? You look at the brake disc, it kind of has a cool wave design to it. It's got the cool trellis frame. I mean, it is a steel frame, so it's not aluminum or anything exotic like that, but it's got a cool look to it, right? The exhaust is exposed, which if you get an aftermarket, you're gonna get the cool colors going. It has this neat cafe racer look to it, where the clip-ons are the same height as the seat. And even just the clip-ons on their own, you don't see naked bikes with clip-ons. They usually have handlebars, but again, it adds to the aesthetic. The dash as well. Functionally, not that great, kind of a funky dash, but again, it looks old school. It's got this round dial to it, but at the same time, it's digital. It's got the shift light and so forth. So again, it adds to that aesthetic. Just little things like, it says it's got the Vitpilen on the triple tree. I mean, it's just a cool look. I mean, out back, you've got an LED tail light as well. Really futuristic looking. It's not, kind of goofy looking like some of these other small quote unquote beginner bikes are. I mean, it's got full adjustable suspension, both front and the back, which in its class for beginner bikes is really uncommon. Usually you'll get maybe preload in the back, that's it. So this is fully adjustable front and the rear. Quick shifter up and down, so bi-directional quick shifter. Again, most bikes in this class don't have that, so that'll make your riding a little bit easier as well. You don't have to manipulate the clutch as much because you got a quick shifter. And these bikes, they're also easy to work on. So when you want to change the oil yourself, when you want to adjust the chain, you want to make modifications to it, change the exhaust, right? It's really easy to work on. You only need basic hand tools. You don't need to buy a whole bunch of tools. So whereas something like my Ducati, you pretty much need all kinds of different extensions. You need a bunch of different types of Torx bits, Allen keys, you need pry tools. There's just more to it. It's not a bad thing, there's just more to it. Whereas these bikes, they're super easy to work on, very simple. I mean, not very many bikes out there where you could change the header in like probably 20 minutes. You don't have to take anything off but the header itself. Whereas something like a Ducati, for example, if you want to put headers on that, you got to take the tank off, you got to take all the fairings off, drop the radiator. I mean, which is fine. It's a different type of bike, but for a beginner, that may sour your thoughts on riding. It might just be too much trouble. When things are a hassle, then what happens is you start making up excuses as to why you don't want to do it. You start justifying why you don't want to continue on this path, right? oh, you know, my wife's having a kid, we're having twins. I don't know if I'm gonna have time to maintain this thing and blah, 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 right? Where, you know, this Husqvarna, super easy to change the oil. You don't have to lift the bike or anything like that. The kit's only like 30 something dollars for the oil filters and the O-rings and all that stuff. Oil is easy to get. It's just 15W50 Motor Rex or the equivalent Motul. It's just simple, right? And when you want to modify it, which eventually you will, the parts aren't super expensive either, right? Again, if you, something like this, yeah, if you want to buy a carbon fiber fender for the front, so it costs you $500, $550, right? And it's a pain because the brake line runs through it and everything else. Whereas on a Husqvarna, right, you can get all kinds of carbon fiber stuff that is really for a Duke 390, but you can get, you know, the chain guard, the sprocket cover, the rear fender, everything for like less than 400, right? And it's easy to do. You can see all the bolts. It just takes some 10 millimeters and it takes a few Allen keys. That's it, right? And kind of on that same note, there's plenty of aftermarket parts for these, right? They're really popular. A lot of the aftermarket 390 parts will fit on these. So if you kind of maybe get tired of the bike, you want to change it up, get a little more performance or whatever it may be, it's easy to do that, right? You could put lightweight brake rotors, you could put a stealth sprocket on the back, lightweight chain, change the exhaust, change the intake, change the tune. There's all kinds of things you could do. Some years they even make like a factory, like factory fairings and stuff like that are a completely different color. There's another company that makes like an aero kit for these. I think that's Project Racing. There's all kinds of stuff, right? They have different seats for them. A lot of easy things that you can do to these bikes in your garage and just enjoy spending time with the bike. And performance is really good as well. So yeah, again, it's as I said in my prior videos, it's not gonna be a 636, right? For sure. But these bikes are really light and they make a decent amount of power. So their maximum power, it's pretty much on par with the rest of the class. As far as the other parallel twins and stuff like that of similar displacement, but this bike is much lighter and it makes the power much lower in the RPM range. So when you see that maximum horsepower is 44 horsepower, the same as the R3 or whatever, or within a few horsepower of that. But if you look more into it, the power band on these is much lower. So when you're riding around town, having fun, this is gonna feel faster, right? And it's way lighter than something like an R3, right? An R3 I think is 40 something pounds heavier than one of these, and that's before you start dropping weight off these bikes. And yet again, that's something else that you could do as a beginner rider. If you maybe are young, you're in college or just got out of college, don't have a lot of money, it's easy to take weight off these bikes. I have a video for that as well, where I show you how to take 20 pounds off of one of these things without buying a single thing, right? So you could just spend a day at home, bored or whatever, you want to relax a little bit and just spend some time just removing things on the bike, increasing the performance, and you're not spending any money, and you don't need special tools. Just a basic hand tool kit will do it. So the last thing I want to address is there was a video that I made about a week ago or so, kind of discussing the quality control issues with these and some of the problems with these. Do I think that that's a barrier of entry for a beginner rider? I don't, but it depends on the person, right? Some people, they just want to jump on the bike every day, not do anything other than change oil every 5,000 miles or whatever, adjust the chain every same 6,000 miles or whatever it may be, put a rear tire on it every so often, and that's it. And if that's the case, then maybe this bike is not for you. They do have little kind of nitpicky issues and stuff like that, but nothing that I think takes away from the experience. I think that I actually prefer it in some ways, right? It's kind of, it's an odd item. They don't make a lot of them. You don't see a lot of them. I live in a pretty dense metropolitan area, I've never seen another Vitpilen. I've seen one Svartpilen one time. That's it. I've seen a bunch of Duke 390s. I've never seen another Vitpilen ever. So in that case, where you have something different, you have something bespoke, you have something that they don't make a lot of, you're gonna have to deal with those little issues. I think that kind of adds to the ownership experience, right? They're just things that kind of give the bike character. There's things that kind of just make it special. It's almost like it's exciting to have these little issues that you maybe try to fix, or maybe you have to kind of modify your riding style to adapt to those issues. That type of thing. I think it adds to it, in my opinion. But tinkering and fixing things and working on my bike, it doesn't bother me, but it may bother others. If that's you, if you're that type of person who gets super frustrated when they have something go wrong with the bike, maybe it doesn't leave you stranded, maybe it's just simple as the dash doesn't always work 100%. If that's gonna make you mad, if that's gonna make you not wanna ride, gonna frustrate you, then yeah, I probably wouldn't get this bike. But if you're not one of those kind of people, if you want something cool, different, something that you're not gonna see every day, then I think that the QC issues shouldn't keep you from buying one of these. And that brings us to price. These bikes, they're really competitively priced. They're I think they're $5,400 as long as your dealer doesn't mark it up. And then you have the freight fees and assembly fees, stuff like that. But super competitively priced, right? For what you get, that's not a lot of money. And I hope that didn't offend anybody there. I know everybody's money situation is different. Everybody's financial situation is different. But for most people looking at buying a toy, right, which this is, most people can afford to foot that bill. Most people can. If you think about it, if you want to finance it, right, maybe put $1,500 down or something like that, basically just cover your tax, your freight fees, some of your document fees and things like that, finance the rest. Your payment's probably only gonna be $100-something, right? And since these are small displacement bikes, your insurance isn't gonna be crazy expensive or anything like that. So you may be able to finance the bike, have your monthly payment and your insurance be around $200, and you're gonna have a bike with plenty of performance, super lightweight, lots of features, looks super cool. It doesn't look like a lame, like dorky beginner bike. All for a really low price. Whereas if you look at some of the other options, even if you look at an Iron 883 or something like that, those are like $10,000, I believe. Whatever the cost is, it's way more than one of these. And the performance of this is going to be much better. You're going to have similar power, but it's like half the weight. So I think with all that being said, you're getting a high performance machine, looks like nothing else. I mean, looking cool is one thing, but also looking like nothing else out there. I mean, it looks like there's nothing else out there that even looks remotely similar, right? I mean, maybe the Yamaha XSR series, but even when you look at one of those, they're cool. They kind of have a cafe racer look, but not like this, right? This looks dead on like a neo retro cafe racer. So you're gonna get all those looks, all that performance, easy to maintain. Yes, there are quirks with these bikes. They're not going to be problem free until the end of time like a Honda or a Yamaha would be. You just have to accept that from the beginning. But for a beginner bike, the pros far outweigh the cons. I think that if a person were to choose one of these bikes as a first bike, as a beginner bike, you're gonna have a lot higher chance of sticking with it. You're gonna have a lot higher chance of really enjoying that journey, maybe even keeping it once you get a larger bike. I mean, obviously for me, I have a larger bike. I have a bike that's, way faster, way more capability, way more performance, way more expensive than this Vitpilen, but I have no desire to even consider selling the Vitpilen because it just fits in such a unique slot that I couldn't replace it with anything else, right? There's nothing else I could replace it with that costs that little, that easy to work on, gets that kind of fuel economy, that cheap to insure, the list goes on and on. There's nothing else that I could even consider that would check all those boxes. So in conclusion, those are just kind of my thoughts, and really just get what you want. Make sure that you really can say that you're responsible enough to ride a motorcycle, that you can control yourself. Because if the answer to both those questions is no, then maybe you shouldn't be riding at all, right? Maybe you're just not ready yet. Maybe you need to do a little more soul searching, mature a little bit, because if the answer is no to both those questions, does it really matter what size the engine is on that bike, right? It's not like people only get killed on big displacement bikes, right? On fast super sport bikes. People get killed on all types of bikes all the time, right? And a lot of people like to say, well, it's other people on the road. Yes, that's part of it, but we gotta be honest with ourselves here too. A lot of motorcycle collisions are solo, right? Running too wide, that type of thing, target fixation. A lot of motorcycle wrecks, they're solo, they're our fault. It has nothing to do with other people on the road. But to get back to the Vitpilen, if you're on the fence about it, I don't regret my decision one bit. And this is coming from a person who has something else to ride, right? This is coming from somebody who has a better bike to ride than the Vitpilen. I don't regret my purchase one bit. And I think for a beginner, you will not regret that decision. You'll get experience working on the bike. You'll get experience modifying the bike. There's plenty of performance. It's plenty nimble. It's a cool looking bike, so you don't have to feel like you're a big nerd riding some dorky looking Ninja 250 or whatever. I mean, it is an excellent platform to start your riding career. So anyways, guys, we'll see you next time. If you have any questions or any comments, we'll see you in the comment section.